Welcome to the Rational Egoist. On today's episode, we're going to talk to an objectivist musician who's going to explain how philosophy integrates into music. This is a topic that I know very little about, so I'm looking forward to learning something here. Lucas Cuadra, welcome to the show.
Hi, Michael. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Lucas, how old were you when you first became interested in music, and what was the draw?
Well, I was, I think, 12 years old, and I think the draw was that I wanted to be a writer, and I found out that writing music, I discovered that composing music was similar to writing, and I thought that I wanted to do that too. Because one day at school they explained us how the basics of how to read music, and I picked it up fairly quickly, and I said, well, now that I can read music, I can write it too, because that's what I said when I first learned to read. So that was the initial spark.
And you not only write music, but you can play music as well, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
How many
Um,
instruments do you play?
oh, just one. I play the oboe, um, a little
What
bit of
what what
piano.
is what is an oboe?
Oh, an oboe. Well, I should have. It's similar to the clarinet. It's a woodwind instrument. It
Okay.
has a very captivating sound. If you listen to Swan Lake by Tchaikovsky, the main theme is played by an oboe. So there are many orchestral pieces that feature the oboe heavily because it's so beautiful an instrument, if I may say so.
Okay, so you're a musician, and at some point you get introduced to the ideas of Ayn Rand, the objectivist philosophy. At what age did you come in contact with these ideas, and what about them appealed to you?
Well, I was 21 when I first read anything by her. The first thing I read was The Romantic Manifesto because a friend bought it, and he read it and he really liked it. And I asked if I could read it too, so he gave me the book, and I read it. And her conception of art was the first thing that caught my attention. And exactly the things that she said about music in Art and Cognition in particular was something that really resonated with me, and I wanted to explore more.
So, what did she say about art, cognition, and music?
Well, it was particularly the moment where she went against contemporary music, because when she goes polemic on modern quote unquote noise music, that was really something I never heard any other author say before. And I always had that issue with modern composers that they I didn't really like the music that they were doing. I wanted to do something else, and I never found any intellectual or any author that would support my position that romantic music was uh, better, or, or any kind of justification for my own idea.
Right. Ayn Rand's theory of art, romantic realism, is that it should be both realistic and romantic. And it basically is that it's supposed to present life as it could and ought to be. So it's an inspiration and an aspiration as well. And I got to tell you, I'm very artistically disinclined, to say the least. I mean, I like music, but I can't analyze it. Now, that's not 100% true when it comes to reading or watching television. I can recognize, whether it's naturalistic or romantic or whatnot, the basic premises behind what I'm reading or watching. But when it comes to music, I have a very difficult time. Does the philosophy map well onto music? In your experience of listening to music, of writing music, do you see the sort of philosophy or the basic premises of the artist? Do you hear it in the music that you listen to?
Well, I think that we do, that that message is there and that we can get it from a composer. There's an issue of validation, like how do we really validate that? How we justify what we get from music? But I think that the most important part is that the music tells you something emotionally, that it resonates with you and that it causes some impact, any impact, and that you be able to, after listening, say in some words what it was. But I think that it is very difficult because music doesn't deal with concepts. That is what she points out in Art and Cognition, that music goes directly to man's emotions instead of first presenting something that you evaluate emotionally and then you feel something. Now, music goes directly to your heart, if you want to put it that way. So that's a difficulty, and well, it's something to work on, how to validate the emotional message of a piece of music.
And you've begun the process, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, of incorporating the romantic view of art into your own music. Is that accurate?
Yes, yes, that is true.
And how is it coming along? First of all, I mean, how's your progress? And can you put into words the best that you can the experience that you're having in doing so?
Well, yes, let's start. Let's say it this way. I My process with my investigation into music and composition in particular began by actually applying Rand's epistemology to music theory. It wasn't so much as going directly to compose romantic music as it's commonly conceived by music historians and composers. It was only that I wanted to make sure that the concepts I was dealing with in music theory were valid and were helping me compose. So it was more of a task of studying epistemology first, ITOE, Introduction to Objectivist Epistemology, and learning her theory of concepts and being able to take concepts from music theory and see whether they were valid or invalid or if there were some corrections that were needed. And that was the start of the process, in fact.
And so when you're doing this, though, what is your own thought process and your emotional reaction? What I mean is, so if you create a piece of music, right, and you're able to play it, and it's that inspiration and aspirational message that romanticism is, or romantic realism. When you do that, what goes through your mind and what are the concomitant emotions?
Well, at the moment, my process is first making myself feel an emotion in particular, any emotional state that I might want to communicate. For instance, what I do a lot is take a passage from a novel or a poem or something that I know moves me and read it, get to really feel that emotion, and then because of my training, whatever I play on the piano or any instrument will express that emotion. So that's how I get a theme for a piece of music that I might be working on. And the piece of music will have the same emotional impact as the original art I used to make myself feel the emotion.
Art, I believe, and it's been a long time since I've read the Romantic Manifesto, but I believe that Miss Rand's view is basically that it makes your sense of life, your values, puts them into concrete form, so that they're no longer. It allows you to see your values made real. Do you get that idea when you write a piece of music, or even when you listen to a piece of music by somebody else that is in the romantic tradition?
Well, yes, yes, of course. What happens is that music makes you feel emotionally the experience of being in that concrete situation. The problem is that music has no means of giving you the words for describing that very situation that you might be feeling. Uh, since that is the let's say a limitation of music, that it can be that it doesn't have words for you to really know what's going on. What you have to do is really absorb what the music is doing emotionally and feel it very concretely yourself, and try to find some kind of image or story or something that will fit that which you're feeling at the moment. I think that a very good way of doing that is to think of a character. That music is trying to give you a portrait of a mind that is going through something. And if you find who that character is and what's happening to them, then you can very easily, well, not very easily, but more easily than not, put it into words and to explain what's going on with the piece of music.
So what type of character do you try to project in your music?
Well, I try to. Um, well, that's a very good question. I think I try to portray heroes, and in the same sense as Rand does in her novels. I think of people like Howard Rourke or Reardon or Dagny. Well, one of my
Sure.
latest pieces has as a character Jean Valjean from Les Miserables by Victor Hugo.
I was
So
actually going to ask you about that when you talked about making music based on writing. I was going to ask you about Les Mis.
yeah,
So there's different types of heroes. So I mean, even if they project the same basic values, the character and the personality of each are very different. I mean, Francisco de Conia, for instance, is not the same as John Galt, and John Galt's not the same as Ragnar Danijold, and none of them are the same as Dagny or Rourke, right? Or Kira from We the Living.
right.
So out of those characters, or someone that's not from Rand, so somebody say from Hugo's 93 or Les Mis, what character would would best represent your view if you were to set music based on that character?
Oh, well, it would depend on the character first, what kind of character it is, and what emotions the character makes me feel when I read about them, when I live their story through them. In this in my symphonic poem that I mentioned, based on Les Miserables, the two characters that I work with are Jean Valjean and the bishop that uh, rescues his soul.
Bishop Welcome,
And
right?
right, exactly, exactly. And there, the kind of work I did was reading the novel in that passage of the novel and try to really concretize in my own feeling the the character that these people have, and being very aware of what emotions they cause in me in order to be able to portray them. So if you listen to that piece, you will see what kind of emotions each of them cause in myself. But it's true that there has to be some kind of basic resonance with the soul of the character and my own in order to be moved by what happens to them. Because if it's a character that's completely alien to what kind of to the kind of thing that moves me, then of course I won't be able to write anything.
So the bishop in the story is an interesting character. He's very compassionate. He's liked throughout the neighborhood that they're in, and he does have one flaw that they point out, and that's that he is prone to really bash Napoleon now that he can get away with it. That Napoleon is, you know, gone from the scene. And there's also a scene where the bishop goes and he has a debate with somebody who was part of the French Revolution, and it's a very good discussion. I absolutely love it. And the bishop is very honest and logical in the discussion, and he actually gets caught uh, by the guy he's debating with in an area where he's clearly on the wrong side of a part of the debate, and he seems to acknowledge it. So that's the type of person he is. And he also takes Jean Valjean in and allows him to stay where nobody else would. And Jean Valjean at that point is just so angry with life. He spent, I think, 19 years in prison. He kept trying to escape, and he's so angry. And even after the bishop does this wonderful thing for him and allows him to stay, he steals from the bishop, right? And then he gets caught. And when he's brought back, the bishop says, "Oh, no, 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 I gave him that stuff." And the bishop says to him, in sort of what is the climax of their relationship, he tells him, "Now you owe me. You owe me to become a good person," right? And so that's what sets the scene for the redemption of Jean Valjean. And I just wonder how, I don't know if you'll even be able to put it in words, given the personality and character of each of these two men as when they first come together, moving toward the climax where they sort of mesh and the bishop becomes the benefactor and inspiration for Valjean. How do you capture that? First of all, do you accept my interpretation? Because
I
that
yes,
would be
absolutely.
important. Okay, so
Yes,
that's
yes.
good. So how do you capture that and sort of encapsulate it in a piece of music? Are you able to even put that into words for us?
It is kind of hard because I should be showing you the music as it plays and say this is that. But yeah, what I did in the piece first, there's some explanation that I can do before. The first thing I did was to come up with portraits of both characters. There's first there's an introduction that sets the mood of the whole story. It is a very dark, brooding thing. And then I do a portrait of Jean Valjean that is supposed to portray that the kind of soul he has.
The difficulty I know is that
Maybe
music
there's
serves the purpose of going directly past the sort of rational assessment of things, directly to, as you said, the heart. And what I'm asking you to do is sort of put it into words. And I understand the difficulty of that. I probably don't understand the depths of the difficulty, but I understand that it's a difficult thing. But if I can't hear it, if we can't hear it, could you, like you said, the first thing you did is you get a character portrait. Can you put the process into
okay. Yes, the kind of the mechanism that music uses, let's say, to create the portrait of a character, is that it works with little little chunks of music, let's say, like there are portions. For instance, we have this. That is one thing. Then,
I'm unable to hear that at all. I'm sorry. I can't hear it.
oh, I'm sorry. Well, maybe we can cut that part.
Okay.
Um, it's going to be hard if I can play it. Maybe there's a way I could share the audio of my computer, perhaps. Because if I can't show you the examples on something that you can hear, then it's going to be really hard to concretize. Should have thought about this before. Sorry. Hmm.
Well, let me ask you this in the meantime. So you've got a portrait of both characters, right? But the
Yeah.
characters don't exist in isolation. They relate to each other and they relate to others in the general story. So when you are putting this in music, are you having to capture both their personality and the manner in which they relate to each other, the ups and downs of a relationship and how it goes beyond towards the redemption of the character?
Well, I think that it some of that goes into. I mean, if that is clear in the writing of the passage I am reading, I am going to get some of that. But most of the process is subconscious. What I have to feel something myself when I am reading the text, the original text. And if I do, then some of that is going to get into the music unavoidably. So I think that it happens. For instance, I think that if you listen to the theme of the bishop in my piece, there is some indication of past pain, let's say, if that makes any sense. Like
Sure.
there is some past tragedy that is long gone, and now he's a very serene person. So very benevolent and calm, and serenity is mostly what the theme expresses. But there is some lingering of old pain, let's say,
And do you feel
there
that,
because of
Lucas,
the story of the bishop.
as you're writing the music, are you experiencing the emotion of the work, of the story? Is the emotion sort of flooding you, like you said, the past tragedy and the ultimate
Yes.
sort of victory of Jean Valjean? Are you feeling that?
Yes, yes. It's not in the same way as I don't improvise the piece when I compose it. I mean, there is one element of extemporaneous composition where I sit down, feeling the emotion, and then a theme comes out. But there are also a process that looks a lot like calculation and conscious derivation of ideas and trying to fit this there and that. In that moment, there isn't so much necessarily feeling the emotion of the characters, but in the when I'm looking for themes, when I'm trying to come up with what the musical themes will be, yes, definitely there is a lot of that. I definitely feel the emotions of the characters at the moment.
Who is your favorite composer or your favorite musician of all time, and why?
Well, I think that Rachmaninoff probably is my personal favorite because of this. I think that he was the one who got the furthest in really expressing the a human consciousness, this portrait of a soul, of a mind, as I'm saying it. He's the one who gives you the clearest, most specific emotional images, let's say, for for what he's doing.
Okay, and who's your least favorite and why?
Oh, well, I don't really have a least favorite. I don't think in those
Really?
terms. Right, yeah. I mean, there are composers I dislike, uh, like Schoenberg and Stockhausen and many of the more modern music scene. But I mean, I don't like their music. I don't know anything about them as persons,
No, no, no.
as
I mean
people.
their music. What about their music don't
But
you like?
well, that they seem to be working against precisely this purpose of music to portray uh, a mind, a human person, a character. That they, it would seem to me that they are actually seeking disintegration in the sounds instead of forming a cohesive image of a person.
It sounds like you're
That
saying
is
they're
why.
kind of nihilistic in their approach and sort of an
Yes, yes,
anti-life
maybe,
sort of
maybe.
philosophy.
I don't know if they were consciously nihilistic, but definitely there is a sort of nihilistic result in what they were expressing. Most of their pieces only are able to express a kind of horror or fear that I mean, I suppose there is a place for it, but it's not what I seek in music.
So speaking of seeking music, what does the future hold for you? You look like a young guy. You must be in your 20s, I'd imagine.
Oh, I'm 32,
Oh, okay. 32. Still a
and
young guy. So what does the future hold for Lucas Cuadra?
yeah. Well, I'm working on writing about my theory of music in general, composition in particular, to be able to teach it to other composers who might be interested, and mostly about writing for general audience listeners who are interested in getting into classical music and might be intimidated about it and don't know where to begin. I want to write about how to get these messages from classical music, which I think I have some new things to say about it, and there isn't a lot of that out there. So I want to contribute to that conversation.
Excellent. Lucas, where can people find you?
Well, I have a Facebook page. Um, I'm also on Instagram, but those are more of a uh, personal accounts. They can reach out to me and talk to me if they want to discuss my music. But mainly, I have a page on SoundCloud. They can find all of my latest pieces there. If you look SoundCloud, Lucas Cuadra, that's my name. Maybe we can put a link to it.
Sure. Just
They
send
will
me the
find
link. I'll
music
get it
there.
up. I'll post it with this. Sounds like a great idea.
Perfect.
Lucas, I
Yes.
appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. And I wish you nothing but the best, buddy.
Thank you so much. Likewise.
For now, this is the Rational Egoist signing out. I'm Michael Liebowitz. Till next time.